What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pull Up Basketball Podcast. I'm your host, Mr. BJ Matthews, a.k.a. B Jizzle. Before we get started, follow us on our YouTube page, Pull Up Basketball Podcast, as well as Spotify and iHeartRadio, the Pull Up Basketball Podcast. Check out all our videos every Sunday. You know what I mean? And also continue to hit our Instagrams, B Jizzle, BJIZZLE. Follow my co-host, Rick Masters, at RickMasters23. We can hit us up on all of our, social media platforms. But let's get it popping. I want to talk about the OKC Thunder and LA Clippers last night. The LA Clippers once again dug themselves in a hole, having to climb out of, 99-94. They did win, they did prevail, but they keep doing the same thing over and over, which is causing me to really get annoyed by this team. But they bad kids that can't sit down when the parent tells them to sit down over and over. That's how the Clippers are. But yet again, they did prevail and they did win, so we'll take the dub. But I want to talk to y'all about what's going on with Paul George. Now, for me, I'm going to talk to you. I got three different types of hats when it comes to this basketball, how I can relate to the game. Figuratively speaking, I like to collect hats. I like to collect snapbacks. I like to collect fitteds. I like to collect bandanas, headbands, whatever they call you. Some people like to collect, shoes. Some people like to collect shirts. Some people like to collect souvenirs. I like hats. Now, in a basketball sense, when I say I have three different types of hats, I can relate to the game in three different types of ways. Meaning I can relate to it as a fan, meaning I can cheer and, go for the team that I like or the players that I like. That's me as a fan. Me as a reporter or analyst is a person that can break down the game very detailed and, make very, very wise predictions based off the experience that I have. I can use my hat as that. But I'm going to talk about the hat. I'm going to put the third hat on that I actually I can relate to, and that's as a hooper. As the actual basketball players actually on the court. That is me as well. So I want you guys to, sit back and then hear what I have to say as BJ the Hooper. This is BJ the Hooper talking about y'all. Forget the fact that I like, Paul George. Forget the fact that I like Kawhi. Forget the fact that I like the Clippers based off the fight that they have and the warrior spirit that they have. I'm talking to y'all as the Hooper. Paul George, what I'm seeing with him, he had 32 points last night with 9 assists, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists. He's averaging 28 points per game. He's leading the league in scoring right now as we speak. Paul George, I feel like still, I see a lot of people, asking Paul George, this is nice, but what's he going to do in the playoffs? What I'm starting to see with Paul George is a resurgence and a settlement of who he really is. For the people that keep asking me and keep saying, what is Paul George going to do in the playoffs? When you graduate from high school and college, you don't go back and take the course over again that you just passed. He already passed the course last season in the playoffs. And that's the problem. We keep asking this dude to keep proving himself in situations that he's already proven. All he needs to do is maintain the level of play he's having. Again, forget the fact that I'm a fan of this dude. I'm talking to y'all as the Hooper. So the game of basketball is mental more than physical, right? 90% mental, more than 10% physical. Meaning that what you tend to think and what you tend to be in your heart is generally what you're going to be. That's what you saw in the bubble when Paul George was dealing with whatever he was dealing with in that bubble was not his normal self. Hitting the side of the backboard, being mentally depressed, whatever you may call you, that was not Paul George. Before that, he was a top 5 MVP candidate. That's the Paul George that we're used to seeing. So now that he got that mental block off his back by what he did in the playoffs last season, you're not going to see a drop-off from his performance. This is why no matter if it's in the season or the playoffs, he's going to put up these type of numbers, especially with Kawhi now being out. It's going to make him carry the physical scoring load. Either way, he's going to still produce at a high level. So, no, he's not going to be hitting the side of the backboard. He's not going to be, turning the ball over. He's not going to be dribbling the ball off his foot. He ain't going to be doing any of that in the season or the playoffs. If the Clippers tend to lose in the playoffs, it's not going to be on Paul George. Dude's doing his job. Now, I already said it, full strength, they're going to win the West, and they'll have a chance to win the championship. But we're just talking about what Paul George is doing. Now, I will say this. As far as being a leader, we all know Paul George is not a superstar. He's an all-star. He's a top 15 player, top 10 talent-wise. But that's why we have Kawhi Leonard, and that's why you have your superstars on your team. But as far as what he's doing now, he's been carrying the team and carrying the load at a dramatic pace. So we have to kind of figure out, okay, what is Paul George going to end up being at the end of this season in the playoffs? He's going to be a 25-plus per game scorer, probably 8 rebounds, and probably like 4 to 5 assists per game. He's going to be able to lead this team to the playoffs down the stretch. And they have enough pieces to be a very, very dangerous threat. like I said, they got to continuously clean up all these little stupid mishaps by allowing teams just to stick around and play the game, because they could have lost that game last night to the Thunder, and that would have been very embarrassing. But as far as a whole, I'm not getting why is there still so much doubt when it comes to Paul George. The dude was a top 5 MVP candidate. He led this. He's been to the playoffs every season since he's been in the league. I don't think more people know that. So the dude has a track record for sure. You know, it took an Indiana Pacers team in his younger years to keep Brunson to the playoffs. And you ask me to do this with the Clippers, who are a better team and with a better coach, for sure they can do it. Of course, they got to wait till they get Serge Ibaka and Marcus Morris back to get, stronger. But until Kawhi comes back, he can hold down the fort. And that's another thing I want to also mention with Kawhi. People, I understand without Kawhi, we're not winning the whole thing. Obviously not. You take your best player off any of these teams, you're not winning. You take Giannis off Milwaukee, they're not winning. You take Anthony Davis or LeBron off the Lakers, they're not winning. You take Steph Curry off Golden State, they're not winning. You take Joel Embiid off Philadelphia, you're not winning. Obviously, if you take your best player off, you're not winning. So I get that point. I don't know why that point needs to be shoved down people's throats. Maybe because you're so worried about the dude that he's such a threat. But I know I'm not stupid. I know that you're not going to win without Kawhi Leonard. But I will say this. What has strongly conducted this team is they're able to hold down the fort until he comes back. So I just have to mention this. He took over the game last night. Without him, we would not even won the game. Again, I am a little bit annoyed by how they keep putting themselves in these situations. Paul George even admitted that last night. They seem to always, play better with their back against the ball, which they have teams like that, but it doesn't make it, safe and doesn't make it a good idea. But they have, I guess, the mojo and the swag to feel like they got it. But, that's what I really want to get point people's, across in mind, to, for some reason, stop with the hoping or, the wishful thinking that, he's just going to all of a sudden just go back into mind control and just, start throwing the game away and just start, doing crazy stuff that he ain't never done before. It's not going to happen. Be prepared to play the best team and the best version and beat him that way, instead of wishing that he's going to turn into somebody that he turned into one time under direct circumstances in a bubble when you don't have the option to, go home to the comfort of your family, go home to the comfort of whatever you have. As a hooper, if you're going to be condensed into a bubble that you've never been condensed into, everybody is not going to be okay with that. There's going to be people who's not going to have that mental psyche to be able to deal with that. But if this was last year, you say, I need to see Paul George prove it, you're fine. I understand that point. Paul George, he didn't, prove what he did in the playoffs. I get that point. But what he did, all that needs to be put to rest. But that's all I have to say. You know what I'm saying? Continue to follow us on our YouTube page, Spotify, as well as iHeartRadio, the Pull Up Basketball Podcast. Follow my co-host, Rick Masters 23 on Instagram. Follow me on my Instagram, BJizzle, BJIZLE. Pull up a seat, pull up a check, pull up. Peace. Out of here like swimwear.